Yes, we're excited. Just being over there was just an encouragement. Had a team over there, and really, Brother Mark, Miss Dana, seeing your where you started in Brazil and how God has transitioned that to how you will change to finish in Brazil is going to, and I say finish, I mean, the Lord take you home, but the foundation you're laying for the Apoya Ministries and something that's perpetual that is really encouraging there. So we're going to hear about that and kind of answer some of those questions. So be thinking as we go into this time, just any questions that you might have for them. That we can ask them. We are so glad that they are here today. When you leave today, you're going to get the our mission prayer card. It's Let Our Light Shine. It has all the missionaries that we support, the Bible printing ministries. You can take that and pray for our missionaries. Our theme verse is Matthew 5:16. That really memorize that over the next several weeks. Let your light so shine before men, they may see your good works and glorify your Father, which is in heaven. And it's our works we do to glorify God. And so I'm grateful for that today. I'm going to pray, and then we'll have a video this morning. God, I love you, and thank you so much for loving us. Just a place that we can come and meet and have church, and Lord, be able to sing your name. And Lord, I'm thankful today that we live in a free country. Lord, I'm thankful for where you put us, and I pray that we will be the light where we're at. I pray for each and every person that's here. And God, this past week, as Brother Rick mentioned, these aviation accidents. And Lord, we have some pilots in the church. And Lord, their life depends on the information they're given. And I pray that you'll protect them and just put a hedge about them. Be with us as, Lord, we go to work every day. Give us opportunities, Lord, to share the gospel with people that we work with, those that we live beside. Just give us those opportunities, I pray, in Jesus' name, amen. All right, let's have it.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Listen, we want to just give you a real quick update video of especially the last 3 weeks. We've been on a 21-day marathon, visiting several of our Brazilian pastors in their cities and their churches. God really blessed. We're so thankful to be back here in Sao Paulo, beautiful church in Sao Paulo.
set this over here. I would have set down there. There we go. That some of the places, being there and seeing that is just encouraging, and it was great. The group that was able to go and São Paulo and also Patizópolis and Manaus, just a great time. But Mark and Miss Dana, I'm going to invite you to come up at this time, and we're going to go through just Q&A and kind of give them an opportunity to share their heart and vision. On that side, the coming back, one of the greatest things that I got, Brother Mark, coming back was a pair of shoes from Brazil. I was actually in Men's Warehouse the other day, and I was wearing these shoes, and the guy goes, "Where did you get those?" And I said, "Why?" He goes, "Well, the laces," he said, "those look really good." I said, "They've been the best shoes I've had." He said, "Where'd you get them?" I said, "Brazil." And he said, "Yeah, I'm not going there." I said, "No, and I can't find them online to buy another pair." So, but it's been great. Miss Dana, we're so encouraged that you're doing better. Road has not been easy for you, and I know for you, Brother Mark, and COVID, you've battled that several times, and sickness and surgeries and hospital stays, and so being back in the States for a little while now, and then when you head back, kind of just a few things that I jotted down, and then questions that you might have, we'll ask. And so on that, David Livingston said, "I will go anywhere, provided that it will be forward." And so just refresh us on how God called you to Brazil.
Well, first of all, I just want to say good morning to you guys at Liberty, and we're just so thankful for every one of you. And what we showed in the video was just a small portion of what the impact you guys have had in Brazil. I mean, literally. And we're just so thankful for you guys every month, the support. And we know you've been praying for us. The group came down, was just incredible for us. In spite of Dana being in the hospital the whole time that they were there, we just thank you, Lord, for you. But, I think I may have said this when we came last time, but Dan and I, we've been married, 44 years. No, I'm just teasing. We'll be 45 years in December. And, we got married. We were still in Bible college. But we didn't have a direction, per se. I just knew God called me in the ministry. But I knew that God wanted us in the ministry at some point, at somewhere. And so, make a long story short, it took a while before, took me being in traction in the hospital. I was in construction at the time. We had left school at that time. We went to school, and then we left seminary for about 6 years. There were some issues at the school. We were young. We were in our early 20s, and I was in traction in the hospital, and God said, "I want you to go to Brazil as missionaries." I knew that. I could look back now and see, and as a 14-year-old teenager, God used people in my life, but I didn't realize it at the time. One of those particular people, and I don't know if you guys got to meet him at all, but Pastor Wendell Hires, one of our missionaries from years ago, when I was a teenager in Michigan growing up, he came to our church. And he said, "One day, Mark, I'm going to see you in Brazil." And I thought to myself, you know what? I don't think so. I'm 14-year-old. I've got plans for my life. I loved doing audio and video and that kind of stuff. And I said, "Okay, Pastor Hires, we'll see." Anyway, God used him in my life. I didn't realize till later on. Obviously, over 10 years later, God called us in the ministry. And at the time, we already had 2 kids. We left school, but we were still working at our home church. We were doing junior church. We were in charge of all kinds of things, thinking in our members at our home church's eyes, Mark and Dana were they were like the epitome of children's ministries. But we weren't happy. We were struggling. So I'd asked Dana, I said, "What do you think about going to the mission field?" She says, "I don't think so." She was perfectly comfortable. We had a house, we had a car, we had 2 kids, we had our ministry. So I said, "God, you're going to have to change her heart." And it wasn't that we were, like I said, we were being faithful at our church. And God had called her into the missions when she was a teenager also.
but we were satisfied. We were comfortable. Took a year. A year later, I was working nights, and so I couldn't go to our mission conference, but I came home, and she was in tears, says, we got to go to the mission field. But it took a year. And that's kind of what I'm going to be preaching on this morning, that we need to pray intentionally. That's the title of the message this morning. I kept praying for a year. I said, God, you're going to have to change your heart. And then we talked about where we're going to go. And I said Brazil, and she said New Zealand, Pastor. Two polar opposites. But God has a sense of humor. God allowed us to go to both. There was a period of time in the middle of our 35 years of ministry that God allowed us to go to New Zealand to take care of two missionaries' work. So Dana got to go to New Zealand for 3 years, and we got to go back to Brazil. So that's kind of a nutshell.
Dana, you followed him, and able to go to New Zealand. But really, your work in Brazil is kind of widespread. It's not just in one town. The slide that's up there is São Paulo, Brazil. That's ministry. That's Pastor Washington in the bottom left picture, him and his wife Josie. That's right outside of Paraisópolis. And really, we talk about it, but I really don't know what to compare it to in America. I don't know that there's something you could compare it to in America. But we're standing outside, so where that Iglesia Baptista Biblica is on a road, and right across the street is Paraisópolis. They're on the border of the, how would you describe that? Well, let Dana, describe, how would you describe that, Miss Dana?
That's like what, good morning. I wanted to tell y'all good morning. And I wanted to first tell y'all that I'm so impressed, Mark and I both are, with y'all's banners. I would love to take our banner.
We actually printed one for you. You get
did
today.
You really?
We did.
Thank you so much. I love that. It's just wonderful. And but I have to just tell y'all, thank you so much for sending your pastor and Wendy, and then several of you, Tim and Juanita, came down. And when Tim and Juanita, I had to say this first. I always have to say something else first. I love to talk, Women love to talk. So. No. When I get the microphone, Mark gets kind of scared, But when Tim and Juanita came down the first time by themselves, Juanita talked with her pharmaceutical knowledge and stuff. And that really made an impact on Paraisópolis there, and with the Postu there, or I guess like a little clinic. And so I've never told Juanita that, I don't think, but that really made an impact. You did, and but Paraisópolis, it's like, have you ever heard of shanty towns? Shanty towns. That's like what Paraisópolis is. It's just like when you have a family and the kids grow up, they don't really move away. They build on top of their parents' home. So if you could imagine here, your kids grow up and they don't move away. They just build on top of your house. or beside it. So it's the family unit there. They're very, very close, and they take care of the grandparents and all that. So, but that's what it's like. It's just the shanty towns, and some houses are made out of cardboard, and so when it rains, when the floods come, then of course they're destroyed, but there's no law in Paraisópolis. The police do not come in unless they're going to kill someone. So if the police come in, someone's going to die. It's usually going to be a street kid or a drug lord or something like that. And a lot of times people they'll be, running from the police, so they'll go into Paraisópolis because they can hide there, very easily. Because you have, I think it's a 1 square mile area, and there's over 100,000 people in that area. So it's just wall-to-wall people. But, it's funny, when we're in there, we feel completely safe because the drug lords run the city there. They run it. So they know why we're there. But now if you come in and they don't know why you're there, then sometimes, drug lords, police. Now we love the police there, but a lot of times the police, they'll shoot first and then they'll ask questions, so but you just, the thing is, and it really doesn't matter whether it's here in the States or in Brazil, you just have to be smart. You got to you got to be street smart. Like when we're in Paraisópolis and we're down in the city there, we don't talk English. We just talk Portuguese. Now, people know, they can hear us and they know, oh, they're not from here because of our accent, of course. But they know, oh, they can speak Portuguese, So you just have to be really smart, be aware of your surroundings. Always be, when you're out there in Paraisópolis and other places, always be looking around to make sure no one's like same person not following you, So that's kind of, it's hard when you're in that mindset. It's hard when you come back here. Sometimes you have to be that way here, don't you? But it's hard sometimes you don't have to be that way, but it's hard you're in that mindset. So you're always thinking, oh, I have to be careful, someone's going to attack me, or, something like that. So that's kind of hard, because here, people here, you think for the most part, the neighborhoods are just so nice and comfortable, and there you don't have comfortable neighborhoods there unless you live in the very wealthy, But, so I don't know if that answered your, I know I talked a lot.
No, it's pretty amazing that you got Paraisópolis, just 1 square mile, and the cartel and they run the city. It's their city, and so they ride motorcycles over there. And so there's a guy at the church who had the motorcycle. He lives in Paraisópolis, and one of the most impressive.
Let me give an example. Just when he mentioned that, it's probably just kind of like, you can't fathom this, but when the drug lords control the neighborhood, I'm going to give you just a small example. Your electric bill, I have no idea what your electric bill is here, okay? Let's just say your electric bill is $150 a month. Okay, well, you're not going to pay the city the electric bill, you're going to pay the drug lords, and they're going to tell you what you're going to pay. If they say, if it's $150, you may pay $250, or you may pay $300. I'm just giving an example. It's not that much, but it's probably double what they would normally pay, but you're going to pay the drug lords. So they control everything. Okay.
And some of them houses, you say it's really possession's 9/10 of the law.
Right.
Whoever goes in and takes the house, they don't know whose deed the house is in.
Right. Nobody has a deed to, like there's 100,000 people in there. So you don't own, and that's one of the problems that we've faced with our church there, is because it's changed hands like 20 times probably. And so to actually buy that property and actually get it legally in the church's name is almost impossible. Honestly, it's so corrupt, you may, and like you said, if you live there, then you live there, you can say you own it, but legally you don't.
Right. Yeah, one of the things is going into the city. One of the gentlemen there, what impressed me was really the people that come out of Paraisópolis, when they come to church, their clothes are clean, they look sharp, they dress up, and it's pretty amazing to me, because going in and seeing where they live, it's not like, oh, in this room we have the washer and dryer. No, because there's 1 floor, 2 floor, 3 floor, 4 floor, and it's like little skyscrapers of buildings, but this ceiling may be 10 foot, this may be 4 foot, this may be 6 foot, and so it's and how they get to the next floor sometimes is you don't see stairs. Sometimes like
it's a ladder.
A ladder, yeah. They climb from the outside, but when we were going in, Brother Tim took the first dive, and he rode on the motorcycle, because they tell you, well, if you ride in there, no helmets. You can't wear a helmet because they want to look you in the eye. And I thought, well, if Tim did it, and I taught the teens on Wednesday night about peer pressure. And I gave in to peer pressure when I was there, but really going through the streets, he would say, don't reach out, just hang on, and we'll go through. And he's known as a preacher in there. Yeah. And we went through there. It was really just something that is really, you can't describe what it would be like here in America. Yeah. But
well, and the guy that Izaki that gave them the ride on the motorcycle, what's going to be really neat, we head back to Brazil March the 4th, and probably within that first 2 weeks, we're already making plans. He's going to be ordained so we're excited about that. So it'll be Pastor Izaki. And,
he's going to be pastor. And the one thing about Pastor Washington and Miss Josie, this is it's hard as a leader and as even a missionary or pastor, is their ministry there really is not we're going to build this thing and it's going to grow and we'll be a power. It really is a turnover ministry. Mm-hmm. And so the congregation that's there today may not be the congregation there in 2 weeks or 2 years or 3 years, and they want to get out of there. They want to move out from there. And really, my respect to Pastor Washington and him and his wife, and the ministries that they have there is pretty amazing. They feed the kids every day, the feeding ministry that they come, and these kids will sit down there and they'll wait, and very, very, very well behaved. Yeah. They come in there and they really, and I thought it was just because Americans were there, but no, they listen. And so that's that ministry there in São Paulo. Do you have the one in Manaus? And so here is one in Manaus. This is Pastor Paulo, and he has 2 institutes there. And Pastor Paulo's testimony, we've been going back and forth. You pray for his wife. She just got out of surgery Friday, and from breast cancer. And cancer is smaller than what they thought it was, but still she's struggling in recovery there. So pray for him. And just their ITV, the ministries there. He has one that the institute that he has, and the second one we were talking last week, Pastor Paulo and I, and they want to build this new place where they're going to put a bakery for bread for the kids. And I shared that story last year. Just his desire to feed the kids was because when he was a teenager, they didn't have anything, and he would go to church and they would give them bread. Well, he would bring it home, and a lot of times the bread that he got at church he couldn't even eat because his parents would take it from him, or his family. And so his 5 loaves theory that he has is he wanted to make sure these kids, when they take it home, that not all the bread was taken from them. So he tries to give every child 5 loaves of their homemade bread, delicious bread. They make, Brother Tim was in there making it with them, and really they got the bakery there. And but we were talking last week, and I asked him where his plans are right now, and still he's in the prayer stage of what they want to build this. And these 2 ministries are ones that when we went to Brazil, part of us going there was to minister to the people, be an encouragement to you, but also seeing the Apoya side of the ministry, where we want to get involved. In these 2 ministries we want to get involved with. I've been talking to Pastor Chad. He's in the Carolinas, and to try and see how we can make that vision become a reality for that. It is amazing the ministry they have there. The school kids come before school, they come after school, and they don't stop working. I mean, from morning till night. And so I'm going to transition now. So you started in, what city did you start in Brazil? We started in São Paulo. I mean, we arrived back in Belém, up in the northern part of Brazil, for about 3 months. Just, we were going to study the language. It didn't work out, but God knew all that. We came through Belém in the north, and then we came down south to São Paulo to study the language, intending to just study the language and going back up north, but God had other plans, and so we were based out of São Paulo. 2 night and day. I mean, Belém is up in the northern part on the Amazon River, and São Paulo is just a mega city of 27 million people, and so it's totally different. It is night and day. The climate, the culture, it's on that. So transition now. You were missionaries. What year did you start the Apoya Ministries? We started the Apoya Ministries in 2017.
but that was like 25 years after we were.
I know you put a name to it, but your projects and stuff, but the Apoya Ministries, the foundation of what that is with you guys. You're at 17 projects right now, and you got
19.
19.
Actually 20, if you, yeah.
So when you say projects, that's churches, that's
15 of them are churches, and then there's 5 that are actually Josie's ministry and Paulo's ministry, but there's actually 2 up in Manaus because we're not only helping with Pastor Paulo and his wife Eloina, but we're actually helping out with the ETV, so we kind of count that as 2 because there's 2 different churches and stuff. So, but yeah, there's 15 church plants and then 5 that are ministries with kids.
How did that transition happen where God laid that on your heart to really you become like the storehouse and the ministry liaison for all of these?
Well, kind of and I'll let Dana kind of share it also, but kind of the way that God laid it upon our hearts was we began seeing, after being there from 1990 to 2016 or so, we began seeing a transition. A lot of these guys were going and starting churches, but they were struggling after they got out of seminary. And it's like there's got to be a way to link missionary and churches, not only in the States, but in Brazil, with helping these guys get these churches started, because we're seeing where you guys came in. And I'll give an example where you guys came in the airport, for example. That city, it's a city that's outside of Sao Paulo where the actual air, kind of like, for no better term, maybe like Cincinnati. There's an airport down there in Kentucky, right? So from here, I don't know how far, it's about 50 miles, something like that. So Guarulhos is where the main airport in Sao Paulo is. It's in a different city. It's about an hour from where we live. There's like 30 churches there that has no pastor. Churches that were started by missionaries or by Brazilian pastors years ago. And over the years, it's like they have a church, but they have no pastor. And we saw that. We said there's got to be, I don't mean a better way of doing this, but we've got to try to help these guys, encourage them, train them, teach them. Not that we have all the answers, but apoyo means to encourage or to support. And so God laid that upon our hearts. That God began speaking and said, you need to help these new guys getting started. And we had no idea how that was going to work. You know, God, what do you want me to? You know, we began with one of our guys that left Sao Paulo to go start a church on the border of Paraguay and Brazil. In Argentina, actually, they call it the three fronteiras, or the three frontiers. And we told them, we want to help you. We want to give you apoyo. We want to give you support, not just financially, but we want to stand behind you. Because Pastor Paulo, if you see that picture, you think, wow, Pastor Paulo is like up in Manaus. You know, he's got all kinds of support. I don't mean financially, just, you know. But time and time again on Tuesday nights, he would say, we feel alone up here. We feel alone, even though he's in the midst of millions of people. But we wanted to be that bridge, if you would, to say, listen, we're going to stand behind you. When Eloina had her surgery on Monday, there was a bridge there. On Tuesday night, we were all praying. God, give her the ability to be able to get through this. Was it easy? No, it was one of the most difficult probably weeks in her life. But it's so neat to see how God used all these pastors throughout Brazil that are part of our apoyo ministries that never knew each other. And some of them still never met personally, face to face. But they know each other. And it's kind of like a family. So I don't know if that kind of answers.
It does.
Maybe
what Mark is saying, when he says Tuesday nights, you said, what is Tuesday nights? Yeah. Really, I was on the call a month and a half ago or so. And was that Brother Wendell that was on there? Yeah. How old is he?
89.
89 years old. And he's on, you would not know that, by the way. He's got his wit about him. He's on the phone. He's interested in every one of their ministries.
He started the church up there in Manaus.
Yes, the one that we were at.
Right.
And so he's on there. Well, this, we have church, right? A couple hours on a Sunday and Wednesday, and their Tuesday night, it's kind of like church for the pastors and the leaders of the church. And they get on the Zoom call, and it's like, it's not, let's just check in and, we got 15 minutes and we're going to, no. it's 2 and 3 plus hours every Tuesday, jumping on there. And when he says they know each other because they've spent hours together, even though they've never met face to face. And really, the way you've orchestrated that has created a Apoya family, more or less, and they help each other, which is pretty amazing. Yeah, on that side, where really it's like you got the Apostle Paul over there, and you all these churches that are going, and that is very commendable on that. But it's perpetual also. It's something that God takes you home, and that ministry will live on. Because of the foundations being laid. So
Well, that's we've tried to teach our people, especially in Patisopolis, to not always be the ones to need something. We try to teach them to give, to help others, and that's what has been so neat with, like Pastor was saying, that our Brazilian pastors, they'll hear like a need on Tuesday night, and so what they'll do is they'll send some money to that pastor, their church will. Now, they're just depending on God, knowing that he's going to supply that. But it's so good, though, to see these Brazilians helping each other. I think too many times, and I'm sure you have seen this before, that American missionaries will go over there, and there's been times that the American missionaries church has built everything, and the Brazilians, they didn't have to work for that, and a lot of times they won't appreciate that if they haven't had to work for that and build towards that, don't you think? It's very important. So we've taught our people in Patisopolis to, they are a very needful people. They need things. I mean, a lot of times their focus is, okay, where's my next meal going to come from? Whereas in another church that we worked at in Sao Paulo, we worked with the very wealthy there for about 7 years. And what their mindset was, oh, how can I keep my money? I mean, they didn't have to think about how am I gonna eat. They had plenty of stuff to eat. But and we would teach them to reach out, to other works, other people that were in need there. And that's what's so neat about what y'all do. I mean, not only are you supporting us, but you're supporting so many other missionaries around the world that you have a part in every single one of those works. And what's so neat about that is people that get saved, God is going to give you the victory for that too. That's what I love,
Anybody got any questions? Just talk loud, and I'll repeat it that way. Anybody? Don't all raise your hand at once, I say that. Brother Rick.
This is kind of more, I guess, on the political side, but I know they have a president who's more socialist. Has that any kind of impact at all on your ministries?
It hasn't. We have a president. I would say we have a president. I'll just leave it at that. He when we first went to Brazil, this president we have now, I remember, he was a communist, and he threatened to close every church building down. This was like back in the 90s. And I think he's learned that that's not going to happen. So we have every liberty. There's not been any restrictions from the government. But I say that it's not the government we have problems with, but some of the other churches. For example, I think we explained this to you last time, that one of the hugest ministries that we're helping be involved in is in January every year in the state above us. There's a outreach that's a week-long outreach. They go to a city, target a city, that this is the city we're going to start a church in, and they've started like 12 churches over the last 12, 13 years, starting in January. But if it's announced ahead of time that you're going to this particular city, the Catholic Church in that city will make sure it's closed down or make sure there's all kinds of problems, and they won't, like, you can't rent the building or you can't use a school because they have the control of that area. So it's not really with the government per se. It's more with, other churches, I guess you could say. I don't know. Yeah. Hope that answers your question, yeah.
Anybody else? Yeah, Brother Brent.
Can you talk a little bit about, you said they're very generous, the pastors with each other. Can you talk a little bit about the American money versus the Brazilian money that is shared amongst the church families?
As in, like, what do you mean? Like, give me an example. I'm not sure what you're meaning.
Just like their generosity, the people's own heart for supporting each other. I can't imagine there's a lot of income.
No, there's not, but I'll give you an example. One of our Brazilian pastors, his name is Mauricio, which is, he's in the state of São Paulo, and I remember that he had a need, and in dollars it probably wasn't that much, but in Brazilian reais it was a lot. His car had broken down, okay, and it was a need of probably, in dollars, probably $500, let's just say, to get it fixed. Well, we could have tried to raise money for that, but I liked it that our group of Brazilian pastors in the Port Ministries, without saying it on our Tuesday night meeting, they just, one sent 100 reais, one sent another, and that need was met amongst the Brazilian pastors. Yeah, they struggled. I mean, most of them struggled to put a meal on the table, but they've learned that it just, we can't outgive God. And so in dollars, it may not be a whole lot, but in their Brazilian reais, which is their money, they've learned to be generous. And Pastor Washington, that these guys have met, and Megan and Madison met too, one of the things that Americans have, that when he came to the States in 2019 to travel with us for 6 weeks, he summed it up in one word. He said, when somebody asked him, said, what do you, when you think of Americans, what do you think of? Pastor Washington, this is his words, not mine. Generous. And that word generous, they've learned that. Pastor Paulo is another one. He said, I've never seen anything like it in my life. He's met a lot of missionaries over the years. He said, I've never seen, people that are more generous. They are more caring. So they've learned it from you guys. They've learned it from Americans to be generous. They've learned, like Dana said, to not have a handout, but yet what can we do for our Brazilian brothers and sisters?
Can I share a story about that? We have one of our newest pastors. His name is Pastor Celso, and his wife is Angela, and they have a daughter, Samara. She's 18. Oh, yeah. Yeah, you would have met them. I don't know if you remember them or not. But they found out she has a tumor, and she needed to have surgery. Well, they have to go with the socialized medicine. That's what they had to go with. So, and the surgery was going to cost $7,500. I mean, reais. So they definitely didn't have that. And they were going to have to go with socialized medicine, and they were put on a waiting list. Well, her tumor started growing, and they knew that if they were waiting on the socialized medicine, she'd probably die, So anyway, God placed it upon my heart. That was Tuesday night, a week ago, and God placed it upon my heart. I said, I'm going to reach out and see if we can get some people to, and I wasn't going to contact churches, of course. I was just talking about maybe some of our friends, that give to our ministry. And not that y'all aren't friends, you're friends, but not church as a whole, And so I just started praying about that, and I didn't know how God was going to supply the need. But what's so exciting, though, is because Mark and I have seen God work so many times, not just in our lives, but people's lives, it's so exciting to see how God is going to meet that need. because he will. And we knew this was urgent. And we knew God would meet it, but we didn't know how, though. And so I just kept asking God, God, please help me to know. Well, I woke up Wednesday morning, it was like 4 o'clock in the morning. And I thought, God, how am I going to get this money, And so God just said, send a message to Tammy, one of our friends in Arkansas. And so I looked online on Messenger, and I saw that she was online, or it said she was online. Sometimes they're not online, but it just says you are. So I put out there, I told her what was going on, and I said, if you could, possibly help somehow with that, trying to get some of our friends, to help. And so I sent her that message, and it was about 3 minutes later, she sent the message back, and she said, oh, yes, I can help. And I thought, oh, great. So I was reading it. Well, Mark's asleep over here, okay? So I'm reading it, and I go, oh my goodness. Oh, my goodness. And Mark's going, oh, what are you talking about? And I'm like, wake up. And he's like, what? And I said, Tammy, she said she's going to take care of the whole amount, $1,300. And Tammy said what God was talking to her that morning when she got up early in the morning, which normally she's not up at that time, but she got up and started doing her devotion. And guess what it was on? Being generous. And she said, God told me I needed to be generous, but I didn't know who he wanted me to be generous to. And right there, she got that message from me. God orchestrated that. I was so excited, but we shouldn't be surprised, But that was I just thought that was a wonderful thing that God did, how he worked all that out,
One thing about Pastor Paulo, and we got to close this down. Pastor Paulo in Manaus, he's an attorney. That was his degree, and he actually was an attorney for the government, very high up in Manaus and his clientele, and he got tired of the corruption, and always taking. And he said I'd have to go to court and have to represent, knowing that and he said God was working on his heart, and he changed everything. And he told God he'd use him, and watching what he's doing now and his level of generosity, you can't outgive God. William Carey said this. He said, expect great things from God, but in order to do that, you've got to attempt great things for God. And so you guys are doing that, and we're glad to be a part. I want to say thank you to our church family. It's because of your faithful support we're able to support these ministries, and all around the room, and looking forward to do more and be a part, and coming down to Brazil and these other countries that we're able to be a part of in the ministries. But it's because of your faithful giving and support on that side. And thank you. We're going to pray. And this morning we got Brother Mark's going to be preaching for us, and Miss Dana will be singing, and then we have all of our teenagers, young people will be the single adults will be our singers today, and then Miss Dana will finish with a song, and then she's going to go back and teach the kids back there today, and so they'll have a great time with that. But thank you so much for doing this and being here. We're encouraged by it, and I'm grateful for the Spencers allowing you to stay up there and eating, and for their ministry. God, I love you. Thank you so much for Mark.